Congratulations, you have made it to the end of Unit 4. By this time, you have developed all of the tools that are necessary for writing models of what competitive markets look like, what determines the prices and the allocations that they generate, and to be able to do things like comparative statistics, try to understand what will happen to the outcome generated by the market if a certain parameter changes. The other thing that you have developed is an understanding of how to measure the total well-being or welfare generated by the market based only on market data on the aggregate supply and the aggregate demand. And through a lot of examples, you have started to gain the confidence to solve these different kinds of models. We're going to use all of this in the next unit, in Unit 5, to ask a very fundamental question, which is how desirable or undesirable are the allocations generated by the market? And depending on the answer, there may or may not be a role for government intervention, as we will see. Although we have covered a lot of ground in this unit, the outline of things that you have to commit with memory, really the critical ideas that will be useful for you to remember for the long term is short, and I want to highlight them here for you. The first key idea is that the aggregate demand for the market is generated by horizontal demand, so it's equal to the sum over consumers of xid of p. And the same thing for the supply, the total supply for the market at any price p is equal to the sum over firms of jd of p. The second idea has to do with the notion of what is a competitive market equilibrium, which is a price and an allocation associated with it that satisfied a couple of things. First, or A, every actor maximizes with respect to the price P star, and B, P star clears the market. What we mean by that is that the aggregate demand of the market at P star is equal to the aggregate supply of the market at P star. That is the key to computing market equilibrium. The third thing is these notions of consumer surplus for the market at price P, which again is just the addition over the individual consumer surpluses, and the analogous for the producer surplus in the aggregate for the market is just the sum over firms of the producer surpluses. And finally, we define this very useful notion of social surplus. And what we saw is that the social surplus, a fundamental notion for any allocation, is just given by the sum of consumers of the benefit that they get from what they consume of good X minus the sum over firms of the cost of producing whatever is it that they have to produce. And we saw that this was equal to the sum over I of the utilities that every person get at the allocation plus a constant. So in other words, the social surplus and allocation measures total utility. And finally, we saw that this is for any feasible allocation. When you look at a market allocation, that can be computed as the consumer surplus at the market, at the sum, the consumer surplus generated by the market plus the producer surplus generated by the market. That's it. This provides a complete outline of everything, every key idea that you need to remember from this unit. One quick comment with a suggestion of what I think you should be with respect to the learning process. In my experience, most students by the end of this unit or the next unit, Unit 5, feel that everything comes together, everything becomes much easier. The models start making a lot of sense, the notation is transparent, and the most important thing is how to translate the economic ideas to the formalisms of the models becomes trivial. Also, because the course is cumulative, as we go forward, you keep using the older stuff you gain becomes trivial. You're getting a lot of mastery over it. Now, the good news is that by the end of Unit 5, we will have developed all of the core materials that are really new ideas that we're going to use. And what you will see is that in all of the other units, Unit 6 to 9, we're basically going to use variations of these key ideas to study other types of markets of interest. But this is the core material that will last for the rest of the course. So that should give you a good feeling of, or a good way of measuring whether you are at the right level or not for being able to complete the class. Finally, let me highlight what are the next steps that you need to take to keep completing and making progress in the course. First, you need to complete all of the practice problems in Unit 4. There's also optional problems if you want to look at them. And very importantly, you need to do problem set number 4. A quick pedagogical comment from the bottom of my heart. I can see from the statistics of the system that some of you are looking at the videos, some of you several times, but are not doing the problem sets. From the bottom of my heart, that's a royal waste of time. Every hour that you spend looking at the problems and working them after you have understood the basic concept in the videos has a payoff for your long-term learning that is several times larger than just keep watching the videos or just watching the videos by themselves. Your understanding the material and your long-term retention and your ability to apply it in your life, which is at the end of the day the most important, will just be much, much bigger if you do the practice problems